Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Got our first episode coming to you after the Thanksgiving weekend, so I'm hoping everybody out there had an awesome Thanksgiving. I know that I did and my family did. Got a jam-packed episode tonight. Got with us Mr. Austin Ardrey from Runnin Ref, but before we dive in with Austin, ladies and gents, if you're liking what you're hearing, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, hit all those fun things. Check us out on YouTube. Check out the store, Twitter, X, all that stuff. Just search for Mike D, the referee. You'll be able to find me out there. And just please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Again, those algorithms trying to get the good word out there about what us officials do out in the world. And as just mentioned, got with me tonight Mr. Austin Ardrey, joining me from Texas. How you doing tonight, Austin?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to talking about referees and fitness tonight.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Great stuff. So Austin is coming to us, and he is the CEO. Is it the CEO that I got on
CEO,
tonight?
yep.
The CEO of Runnin Ref. So thank you for taking the time to jump on tonight. I appreciate it. Why don't you let the listeners out there know what you got going on with Runnin Ref?
So Runnin Ref is a fitness training program that we have designed and implemented within an app that officials anywhere in the world can access right there on your phone or your tablet, whatever you want. So we cover everything holistically from warm-ups, injury prevention methods, strength training, fitness directly related to your sport. So that's exactly what Runnin Ref is.
That's great stuff. And for the listeners out there, make sure you stay to the end, because Austin said he's got a little bit of a surprise for us at the end of the show. So make sure that you're staying on all the way to the end tonight. So, Austin, with Runnin Ref, tell us a little background about how you got involved with this and what led you to the path of dealing and working with referees.
Yeah, this is a really cool story. So my background is in performance. I was a college strength coach for 9 years. Moved all across the country, from here to there, and finally just kind of had enough of it. Well, I moved to Dallas and started a different performance-based business. I had no thought to ever train referees, right? I was training youth athletes, and I still had the burning passion to make them run faster, jump higher, et cetera, et cetera. And a couple college football officials actually reached out. They heard about what I was doing, and what they came to me asking was, hey, can you help us? We have calf strain here. One was recovering from a small procedure done after the season, and their assigner or supervisor, had told them after the season, he said, hey, look, my career changed when I hired a track coach. And that's what my business was at the time, was teaching officials how to run better, how to get in better shape, so on and so forth. And they wanted to just meet up and see what we could do together. And then, here you go, 2.5 years later, after meeting them, now we're helping officials everywhere. And that's why obviously we put it in an app, because I can't be everywhere. Not everybody lives in Dallas, but those were the biggest struggles that they had. Was they needed something to help them prevent some of the injuries, during games. And then they needed to get in shape specifically for football.
That's great stuff. And for the people that have been following me throughout the couple of months here, I posted a couple of videos of me being a sweaty mess downstairs on the treadmill or outside going for a run, trying to get myself back into the season shape. And I'm happy I did it, because I had let myself go a little bit. So it's definitely something that paid off for me getting back into shape. But I know, well, to steal a line from a great movie, I think Matthew McConaughey may have said it, I keep getting older, but they keep staying the same age.
That's
right. All right. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in a different sense, these high school kids, they keep staying the same age, but they're getting bigger, faster, stronger. And I just keep getting older and slower and different things like that. So having something like this is a fantastic idea, and I love what you got going on here. So how long have you guys been up and running now with the program?
So it'll be, excuse me, it'll be 2 years come January that we've officially, had the access for officials anywhere. But I met these guys 3 years ago, and at that time we were just meeting once a month in person. We would all meet in a central location. We'd go through these workouts together, which now we host sessions in Dallas like that, once a month. But then we started sharing off of Google Sheets and Word documents and emails and text message threads, and it's like we can do this in a better fashion that's simpler and very clean and concise. So the better part of 2 years now come in January, which pretty exciting about, what we've been able to accomplish in 2 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty short amount of time too that you've gotten this all up and running. That's really great stuff. So to backtrack a little bit, you said that you had somebody approach you and you were working with the high school athletes and stuff like that. What was Go back to that first session that you had, that first in-person session that you had with people like me, older, slower, beat up, instead of working with the high level athletes now. How did that all work out and how did that go?
Well, I mean, as you know, the officials aren't thought of, right? And myself included at the time on college sidelines, getting the players out of the officials' way. But then again, you don't pay attention to the official, you watch the player. So I had to actually start asking them questions, like, look, tell me about what you do. Tell me about your position, X, Y, and Z, right? And so what would have taken us, had they known what we were doing, 45 minutes, this session took us 2.5 hours. Now, some of it was
Oh,
talking and teaching, but some of these movements and exercises or drills, maybe they hadn't done since they were high school athletes or college athletes themselves, right? So we talked, they told me kind of what they do. I shuffle, I backpedal, I turn and run. And so now my wheels are really spinning, right? And the plan was already to go in and just take them through a college conditioning based session, right? So we did some soft tissue therapy first, right? It was spent time on the calves, the hamstrings, the glutes, the hip flexors, a couple other spots. Then took them to a dynamic warm up. And at the time, I didn't know if I was going to meet them again. So at that point, I needed them to get anything that they could take with them to the locker room, to the field. And again, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I've never seen a referee warm up. Now, we know some do, we know some don't still.
mhm.
That's something that we hope to accomplish, is to, get more referees doing that and taking care of their body on the front end so they can save themselves. But we went through soft tissue prep, warm ups, running mechanical drills so they can become more efficient and the game is easier. And then we conditioned after that. And I tried to make it look like, time between snaps. And we really tried to cater it to exactly what they would see, getting ready for the camps and clinics coming up in March and April.
So that's a great point. I love how you do that because it's actually a workout that I used to do as a coach for our players is simulating a 5 yard run, a 20 yard pass, and simulating those sprints. And then, okay, now you get 10 seconds for whatever your huddle may be. I can honestly tell you that the last game that we had, our last game of the season that we had as a crew, 185 snaps at a high school game. This was for a state sectional championship game. The one coach, the head coach, came to us and said, "We're going to try to snap the ball every 15 seconds." They were a no huddle spread team. The second team was also a no huddle triple option team. So the ball was on the ground, but 185 snaps. I mean, these kids were getting, and both teams were phenomenal with it, in shape, end of the season. But I was very happy where we were as a crew, in shape, both physically and the mental aspect, to still be in it at the end of the game
Yes.
because we were there physically. So kind of I'm a high school phys ed teacher, so some of the lingo that you're mentioning, I also do talk about with our high school students and as a former coach. But for the regular person that's out there that's stepping out onto the field, talk about why it's important to have the warm ups and different things like that. What are you looking to do with the warm ups?
There's a lot that goes into it, but the number one with officials is, we've already kind of hit on today, is that, the kids are staying the same age, but you're getting older. Your likelihood for an injury goes up, the older and older you get, right? Your body just doesn't work like that Ferrari it did when you were 20 years old anymore. So you got to give it a little bit of love first. So injury
I got
prevention is a big deal. But
I got
as
to
the
interrupt you
game,
really quick. I got to interrupt you. I apologize. I was an offensive lineman, so Tractor trailer, not a Ferrari, but thank you.
Well, some of those linemen now are moving, and
Yeah, today, yeah, you're right.
and that's the way that the game has gone too, right? Is that it's spread out, it's up tempo, it's speed, speed, speed. Now the line of scrimmage still matters, but at that point, the officials have to be able to move too. On the other side of it, so the warm up's important because I have to be loose enough at any point in the game to be in position to make the call. I mean, I can't get caught flat-footed and not be prepared to be in position. So
Yep.
I think from the performance side, it matters a lot too.
Yeah, and one thing that I really do harp on with a lot of the different episodes that I've had is our mechanics of being in the right spot at the right time, and that slows the game down for us to be able to see the calls that we want to see. And I really attest to me being in better physical shape. I think made me a better overall official this year of being in a proper mechanic spot, it being where I should be, and also late in the game when it's crunch time, when again, I'm going to quote Vince Lombardi, fatigue makes cowards of us all. Well, when you're fatigued, you start to have more mental lapses when you're physically fatigued, because I'm not sitting there saying, oh my god, I'm so tired, when's this game going to be over? I'm still able to be focused on what my keys are in the play and not taking a play off, because not only is that when I miss a call, but that's when I miss somebody getting injured or put myself possibly getting injured. So I definitely agree with what you got going on with this. So I really do think it's a great setup. So you met that first day for 2.5 hours. What was that after session like with you and the rest of your crew? How did you guys all feel when you left that group of officials?
Oh, they were just fired up. But again, I didn't know what would come out of it at that time because I was already training. And at that point, it's hard because all my time for youth athletes has to be either after school or on the weekend. So it's like, well, where else would I fit this in? So I didn't even have the thought yet. They were so fired up because this was January. And to them, it was like, hey, this is something that's now going to give me an edge, maybe over another official, but just with themselves, right? They were really excited that they could see, like, wow, this is something that could really help me. And again, I think they just repeated that first session on their own a couple times before we ever met again, right? It wasn't rocket science. It was just like it was structured, it was well thought out, and it was easy to implement. And that's all they needed, right? I got an hour to get it done. What do I do?
Yeah, that's great stuff. So then let's talk about the app itself. I, what I'm talking to you right now in my setup here, this is my technology background. How are you guys able to get the app up and running? Like, give me a little technology lesson here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I mean, all of the workouts are preloaded, right? So whenever you join it and you get into it, obviously you have your own personal user profile, right? You have something that has your name on it. It's not the same as has mine. I can go in and customize and make any kind of adjustments that need be. And then it just lays out very simply for you, right? So there's a calendar that pops up and you say, hey, on Monday, December the 2nd, boom, here's my workout. It's preloaded for you. So it's easy. It says warm ups. Now there's a drop down menu. You can read all the warm ups. There's videos attached to it and text that goes with it. So if you're like, hey, I don't know what walking leg swings are, I can click it. If you know what they are, you go on about your business, right? Then there's another drop down that adds in mobility and injury preventative exercises. It has
Okay.
time slots that tell you how long it should take. Then it gets down to the workout, and it's the same thing. Everything has videos that demonstrate exactly how it should be done because, again, I can't be in Kansas and New Jersey at the same time, if there was a session to train an official. So the whole idea is just as simple and effective as it can be. Officials have full-time jobs, they have families. You need to get in and get out and just get the job done to get better.
So now we're coming to here in New Jersey. We're basically done with our high school football season, and I know around the country, we're there. I'm seeing semifinals and finals are coming up. When would you recommend officials start doing programs like this? Is this something that you recommend a year round? Is it something kind of gradually build to and have a peak type of a scenario going with it? I know a lot of football teams players will take basically we're done now. They'll take the end of December and come back fresh on the new year and start up and running with their workouts. What are your thoughts when it comes to the official aspect of it?
I think it's year round because you're an athlete, right? You always have to. You don't want to get too far away, right? But
Yep.
there are times when, hey, it's Thanksgiving break. I don't have any more games. Let's take a couple days, let my body heal and recover. Or hey, in January, I need to actually start getting really serious again because I got camps coming up, clinics coming up, spring football. But football becomes easier than some of the other sports because there's a very accurate timeline that goes with it. We know fall camp starts in August. We know when the Super Bowl is, right? So we can draw up a more definitive calendar around American football than some of the other sports. So, with that being said, if you're a very active official, you want to work out year round, so on and so forth, you're like, hey, I don't want to take a ton of time off, maybe weekends, or maybe I'll switch and go 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week, or whatever the case is. There are things that you can do that are easier on your body, and you don't have to a lot as much time, right? It's just in performance training, it's just periodization, right? What do I do at certain times of the year to optimize? But again, if you're an active person, you like to be, you just need a little variety or some different options to help you.
So now, for me, I am a football official. I don't officiate other sports because my activity comes with me helping coaching my kids out with their sports and stuff like that. But I do know that there are a lot of officials that are multifaceted officials, and now we're into wrestling and basketball season, and then comes track season and baseball umpiring and uh, mentioned pre-production. My daughter is a lacrosse player. Lacrosse around here is going on year round between indoor leagues and winter leagues and fall ball. What do you recommend for officials like that are going through multi sports and different things like that?
I think at that point they focus on their in season because, in my opinion, game day is the most important, right? So if I have some that overlap, right, I'm a football official and then I go into basketball season, that's you never get out of shape, kind of, if you will, right? But
Okay.
at that point, you don't let your off-season volume. That's the thing that kills most people, and that's athletes, that's officials, that's anybody who trains. I think people tend to think they need way more volume and way more work than they actually do. If it was just very direct and focused, so the in-season time period gives you the ability to structure it around game day, where game day is what I want to be fresh for as much as I can. And then you roll into your next one, but you're already active. Your volume comes from the game. I mean, 100 plus snaps in a football game, you're in, pretty good shape. So you don't need to do a ton more of conditioning, right? You supplement a little, but
Yep.
then you roll into basketball, and basketball is just boom, boom, boom. So I think focusing on the in-season time, really around keeping their body loose, recovery, strength training, but not going overboard with it at that point because it is important for an official as well. And again, just too much volume's a killer.
Okay. Now we were talking, and you brought up a couple times injury prevention. What about I'm 50 years old. I'm kind of like Mater from the movies. My body's a little bit beat up every once in a while. What about the officials that maybe have a pre-existing type of injury? Be it I've got a knee injury. I've got a tore my meniscus, so I get gel injections. Do you guys have stuff tailored for people like that may be either looking to recover from an injury or are always recovering from an injury that they're a little bit banged up? So what kind of stuff do you guys have for that?
Yeah, so the deeper and deeper we've gotten into this, I've pretty much pinpointed all of the most common injuries that officials have, right? Patella tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis, calf strains, some low back pain. Obviously, there's some various other ones. Hamstring strains are a big one as well.
Hmm.
So, in my opinion, injury prevention is not just, balance on Bosu balls and stuff like that. That stuff can have a place, don't get me wrong, but I think a total strength training routine that hits on everything to make your body operate efficiently is what you're really after. So, with that, there comes specialized exercises, right? So I'll say, for example, Achilles tendonitis. Okay. There's stuff on the field or on the court that you can do to prep yourself, right? And prep the Achilles, prep the calves, make your body operate. But then there's special strength exercises that we utilize as well that really target that. So you may bench press and squat in a workout, but there's something very direct towards the end of it that is specifically for your calves, your Achilles, your ankles, so that we can prevent some of those. Same thing with the knees. We have some different banded exercises that you would see in a physical therapy clinic. We use them in a warm-up fashion so that we can get it in, and it can build the quads and protect the knee a little bit more.
Okay. I want to backtrack a second because I just this just came into my mind. But as the phys ed teacher, the gym teacher that I am, explain to the listeners out there the importance of overall flexibility. Because as we get older, our muscles get tighter. That's when the back starts to ache a little bit more. That's when you're going to start getting those pulled hamstrings. So dive into that injury prevention, but specifically tell me a little bit about flexibility stuff and what kind of flexibility things that you guys have.
So I think pre-game, pre-training is a little bit more dynamic warm-up type of stuff, if you will. So, walking stretches, but then we pick up the speed of movement. Now, in the weight room, we're talking about true mobility here. That's where I want to find some stuff that sticks a little bit longer or that really opens up joints. So flexibility being a little bit more muscle based, mobility being a little more joint based. And that's
Okay.
really what you should be looking for, in my opinion. Ankles, knees, upper back, hips, big regions to focus on to, like you said, you've been sitting all day, your hips are going to be tight. You need to loosen those back up prior to getting on the court or on the field and moving. And that's where the injury happens. You sat at work all day and you didn't loosen yourself back up.
Yep. Definitely happens. And for me, it's a lot of driving too, here and there to get to the different games. So sitting in the car definitely tightens everything up. And I don't want to just jump out in the car and then go, which unfortunately I have had to do at times. And I'm like, oh man.
Sometimes it's part of life, but I know it's unfortunate. It's like, geez, can there not be a wreck on my way to the game?
Yeah. so so we got the mobility and stuff like that. You mentioned sports specific, and you mentioned talking to starting off with the football officials. What are you doing differently from, say, somebody like myself that's just a football official to, say, somebody that's just a lacrosse official? Is there a lot of crossover between the workouts and different things like that, or is there more specifics to soccer and to lacrosse where it's a bigger field and basically less officials on the field too?
Yeah, we're getting more and more specific. Now, we have a little bit of a cheat code with soccer as, we have a state association that we work with and they actually have GPS units on the referees. So like what you would see the players wear. So we have a little bit of a cheat code. Now I can go in and dial that in. So the difference between, we'll say, football and soccer now does change. The volume of running is much higher as opposed to our football officials, right? Some of the movements that maybe we incorporate, or there's some times where they just do 30-second runs and see how far they can get too. And our football officials, we don't do that. So there's beginning to be more and more differences. Our football officials will do some more multi-directional stuff too, is, part of their warm up to get ready for that. But the weight room is a little more general. So when we talk about strength training, injury prevention, it's a little more general, but we try to keep that in mind as well. Like a football official may need a little more groin work, right? As opposed to soccer official, maybe we add in an extra hamstring exercise throughout the course of the week because of all the running they do.
And that's funny stuff because I used to do triathlons, so that was my running, and I did a marathon once. So I had a GPS watch that I used to wear for the games, and every once in a while I would put the GPS watch on to go back to Strava or to Garmin, whichever app that I was using at the time, and I would see the codes of everything going up and down, and you would see that you'd see the hot spots, and if I was working the sideline, we're coming in and out, and also saw how accurate some of the GPSs were or were not, which was kind of amusing at the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely something fun to take a look at after the games and see. All right, that game I ran 3-4 miles or whatever it may be, or that game was slow and boring, and I only got in 5,000 steps instead of 10,000 steps, so whatever it may be. So yeah, I definitely, as a football official, I still do that. I still wear a smartwatch of some capacity during the games and see if I can get my steps in during those games too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's always trying to find the fine line because the ultimate goal is to prepare you to officiate football, right? Yes, sure, I want you to be in general great shape and health and be a healthy individual, but specifically, I need you to be in shape to officiate, not lose your late game focus, not get injured because you're not in shape, or you have to take off and sprint. So I think that the GPS stuff is great. The technology is helping us, but it's always finding the fine line between doing too much in training and doing enough to prepare, right? So I think we're getting close on really, really dialing that in, but it's going to take a little bit more work and like actually paying attention and spending time at games and hopefully getting some units on football officials at different positions on the field as well in the future to, really take it to the next level.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would definitely be awesome just to see how what everybody's doing. And I know, and again, you and I were talking pre-production. One of my next coming episodes, we're going to be talking about the umpire position in football, and the pros and cons, the good and the bad of possibly moving the umpire to the offensive backfield. And one of the negatives that people continue to bring up is it's a lot more running, almost to the point that some officials that I've spoke to have done between 5 to 7 miles when they've tracked their steps and stuff like that, because it's that much more running and backpedaling and different things like that. Where traditionally our umpires in the high school level are usually the bigger officials that are out on the field. So I know that it does get a little bit of pushback with that, and I'm just, in my opinion, I don't mind the running, I don't mind the moving, and I think personally we could get some more younger officials involved if they didn't have to worry about getting run over. That would be up to the running aspect of it, but that's another show.
Good.
So,
You've
ladies
got
and
other
gentlemen,
topics to
stay
cover.
tuned for that one.
Yeah. You got multiple topics.
Yeah. So you mentioned it, and I mentioned it before. What kind of feedback are you getting from officials? Because I was looking at the website, I saw a couple testimonials that you had on there, and it's a lot of great stuff. What are people? What kind of feedback are you getting from the officials that are out there, and how can that help get other officials involved in this?
I think it just creates a little bit of a belief, right? Because it's a new concept, right? Oh, specific training for a referee, right? Why don't I just continue to do CrossFit, or why don't I just continue to do Orange Theory, or I'll squeeze it in when I can? Well, we're trying to be very, very specific to you, just kind of how organically this came about. But, when it comes to some of that, there's a variety of stuff that we get back from people. And some of the biggest, is getting rid of injuries. Like, I feel better, right? It's a feeling to people. They become attached and they want to tell people about what they've experienced once they feel a certain type of way. I didn't have Achilles tendonitis this year, or I made it an entire season, or, I mean, can you imagine some crazy overtime games where an official goes through maybe 150 snaps in a game and he's like, I actually felt good at the end of the game. Don't get me wrong. Maybe I wasn't fresh like quarter one, but like I was operating at the same optimal level that I did. Those are really cool things to say when people tell us that, I was very prepared. The game came easy to me. That like, that fires me up. That makes me get back to work.
That's good stuff. So now, one thing I do got to ask about that I think is a little bit unique to the sport of football is halftime. Here in New Jersey and across the nation, it's supposed to be a standard time frame for halftime, and I could tell you that standard time frame is always skewed because what school brought their band? How big is their band's playlist? Is it senior night? Is it parent appreciation night? Is it Hall of Fame night? So we've had, in not often, but we've had one time a 35 to 45 minute halftime. And in other games, we're getting our 15, 20 minutes and we're back out on the field right away. So, what kind of recommendations do you have for halftime, coming back out the second half to prepare yourself?
Yeah, that one's crazy. It's always tough. We did a warm up with a Dallas officiating crew this year, and
Okay.
you maybe seen some stuff from the warm up that we've put out on social media in different clips. Game time was supposed to be 7:30. We got done with our warm up, and the clock on the field said there was like 30 minutes left or whatever it was at the time, and they're like, "That can't be right. Game's at 7:30." No, they had to speed it up. So I get it. You have to sometimes on the fly. It's just it's never fair for the official, I swear. But I think your pregame warm up needs to be on point. You need to be ready to go. At that point, you're loose. You've been going for, the better part of an hour, hour and a half. You're moving, you're not sitting. I think what gets people in trouble, the colder weather where you're at is very tough,
Yep.
right? I live in Texas. We have, even some indoors that we play in, like at the Star for some of these local officials, right? They're in a different environment. So they're going to stay warm longer. They're going to stay loose longer. I think sitting too much, I know you haven't got to sit the whole game. you want to get off your feet for a minute, but you can't let that take all 15 to 20 minutes of it, or now you're going to get stiff and tight again. You're going to get lethargic and you're not going to feel good. Some quick fuel, obviously, any kind of hydration that you personally prefer, water, get something in your system, maybe something real quick, but sit down, take a minute, use the restroom, and then just try to move around a little bit. If nothing else, stand back up. You can do some in-place stretches. It doesn't have to be lengthy. I mean, another 5 minutes of just a little bit of movement, keeping your body going, I think could really, really change the game for some that might opt to just sit and get stiff, especially again in the cold weather.
Yeah, and that I could say I am definitely guilty of, because sometimes well, one place had us in a garage out back with the door wide open, so there was barely any warmth in there. So just kind of moving around just to stay warm at that point in time. And
Yeah.
other times, we were just trying to get in and hydrate as best as we can, because our climate here in Jersey, we fluctuate, and I know you guys are dealing with the heat a lot more often than we are too. But you get those fluctuations. Um, you mentioned bringing in the fuel and stuff like that. So by the fuel, you're referring to the free hot dog that the concession stand gives us?
Yeah, or the Snickers or
Yeah.
something that they throw your way. Yeah, just something that you can digest easy that gives you a little bit of energy, right? I mean, you got a whole nother half where you got to be locked in for.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do not eat the hot dogs at halftime. I have learned from experience, because it never, ever sits the right way.
Uh, Surely can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm starting to bring some protein bars and stuff with me for halftime. Give me that little extra boost to go. Um, what again? Something I didn't. I'm just thinking of now. Do you guys talk about nutrition and stuff like that with the program?
A little, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not an RD. I'm not a registered dietitian. That's not really my wheelhouse. I try to stay in my lane, right? These are the things I know. These are things that I've studied for a decade. These are things that I've practiced. And dietetics is not one. Now, I can tell you, hey, look, that hot dog at halftime is probably not your best bet, but
No.
I also shouldn't be telling people, do this, do that, and the other. So we try to just tell people, you know, find something that's well balanced, right? Vegetables are never bad for anybody. You know, recovery, we talk about sleep and so on and so forth, but food is your fuel. You have to have enough fuel to recover, but also to build lean muscle mass and things like that. We do talk about hydration. It's not just about water. There's three key electrolytes that you need: magnesium, sodium, and potassium. They all three work together in a wonderful way. But outside of that, I try not to go off the deep end. Just like, hey, let's not go overboard and eat two hamburgers. Maybe it's you can make a better option.
What's your opinion on pickle juice? I'm spitballing right now. I'm just throwing stuff at you.
Do you still drink pickle juice?
I do. I love pickles, so I can't
I,
lie.
I think there's still some benefit to it, right? I mean, it's liquid, so you are getting some liquid back in your diet. You're getting, some potassium and sodium, and sodium's important. I know America at some point has like
Yep.
pushed sodium away, but those three electrolytes are important. You have to replace sodium when you lose it, so we can't forget about that. But hey, I like pickle juice.
I'm not gonna lie. What got me going back into it, and it was something that when I was training and doing the races. Now I was never in the triathlon or when I did the marathon. There was no way in hell I was making a podium. My goal was to get out of the water, get off the bike, and cross the finish line. That was it. Time was irrelevant at that point in time. I just wanted to finish. But the hydration aspect of it, and the fueling during the training sessions and then during the races themselves, they were very trying. And I did learn from a lot of people in that world. Well, they bottle pickle juice. I'm like, really? And that's a lot of the major races. They were handing out bottles of it mid race. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I
Yeah,
my daughter
I mean, we
drinks
do
it.
pickle
So
pops in Texas.
yeah, there you go. No, my daughter at a lacrosse tournament, we brought a jar of pickles, and she started just drinking the juice, and all of her teammates are like, "Whoa, that's gross." Next thing I know, they're passing it around like it's a bottle of moonshine. I'm like, "Okay, go at
Not
it." So me
half
as the
bad.
dad that day, I was wishing it was a little moonshine, but that's another episode.
That's right. That one's a little more fun. That's a late evening edition.
Yes, yes, sir. So one thing I do got to ask you, and I know it's always a bone of contention with programs like this. Equipment. What type of equipment are people utilizing with your program? And is it something that has to be done in a gym? Can it be something that can be done at home, out on a treadmill, or out on a field somewhere? Give the listeners a little example of different things like that.
Yet there's a lot that goes into that, right? And we didn't have the answers at first because we have to listen to the officials, right? If
Mhm.
they're not getting what they need out of what we're trying to do, then we've got to give them something else. So standard gym equipment would be optimal. You don't need anything crazy to be able to do it, right? Barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, a pull-up bar, so on and so forth. Now there's things that can enhance what you do too, right? Like a couple different banded options, right? I sent out an Amazon link to somebody recently and it was just like, hey, don't break the bank because you don't need to, but this enhances what you're doing now, right? At home can be done. We have many officials that train at home that have either good garage gym setups, or what we've tried to do is give options to officials, right? So if the upper body strength exercise for today says bench press, maybe you don't have a bench at home, but we give you, 5 to 8 options, obviously depending upon the exercise. Maybe you have dumbbells at home. You could do a dumbbell bench press. Maybe you don't have a bench, but you do have dumbbells. You could do a dumbbell floor press. We're trying to stay as close to the now push-ups. Push-ups are still a timeless exercise that anybody can benefit from, right?
Yep.
Oh, push-ups are too easy. I do have a weight though. I could put that on my back and do push-ups, or I have a weight vest. So trying to give officials as many options to still be able to train and do the best they can. But a standard Planet Fitness gym membership for $10 or whatever they cost now will absolutely get the job done.
Okay. So walk me through. I got the app. I go to Planet Fitness. I hit go on the app, and now I'm just going to follow the workout that you got set up for me.
Simple as that. Literally. You plug it up and you look, okay, Monday, December the 2nd. I'm already warm. I've done injury prevention. Cool. I'm going to get to the strength training portion of the day. It says it's 30 minutes long. Obviously, some people work a little slower, some people work a little faster. Now, it's listed in order then. It says, A, do this, B, do this, C, do this. 2 sets of 5 reps, 3 sets of 8 reps, so on and so forth, all the way to the bottom when you're done.
Great stuff. How do you keep people motivated now?
Try to stay in contact with people the best I can, with obviously not being
Okay.
overbearing, right? Because it's important to me. I care about it, and if you are entrusting in me, I want you to get the value, right? There's not anything that beats in-person training, but we're doing everything we can to make this as much of a personal training experience as possible, right? Again, an official in California. I want you to be able to train with me and feel like I'm going through it and doing it with you. So trying to help people set goals, if they ask, and I want them to reach out to me every day if they want. I don't mind. So we have a journal function, and you can type in what you did for the, how it went today. Oh, this was easy, or I used 35 pounds for this, or so on and so forth. So communicating with them that way, email, trying to, we have a group that officials are able to utilize. We call it Runnin Ref Locker Room. I try to post things in there daily and weekly to teach them how to train, how to get better at this X, Y, and Z, the mindset behind training, what they could do, pre-game, recovery days, different things. So I think the constant communication, a little bit of personal goal setting, but at the end of the day, it's like anything else, in my opinion. If you want it, you're going to go get better at it. If I want
Yep.
to be in better shape, I'm motivated. I'm going to do it. If I'm not, that's okay, but you're going to limit yourself in some capacity physically, I think.
And I love that you brought up the journal fact, because I think seeing the journal and going back and being able to see, okay, when I started this, I was doing 35-pound dumbbells, and now I'm doing 50-pound dumbbells. Right there, that's motivation to me. And also, my clothes fit differently. Wow, well, look at that. Okay, so maybe it's working. Maybe that
Or
number on the scale is not that changing, but maybe my clothes are fitting a little bit differently because muscle weighs more than fat. So when we transition and you're burning off more calories and building with the proteins and all that fun stuff, you're going to see some differences in your clothing attire and things like that. And those are
on the
good things.
field, right? Your crew pictures and the way that you carry yourself. But the confidence, this is something I didn't realize 2 years ago either. I actually didn't realize it till I was with a group of basketball officials this summer, is the confidence aspect that goes into that as well. Like, right? I mean, football, you're a little further away from the crowd, but basketball, they're right on top of you typically.
Right on
So
top.
like body position, posture, the way you carry yourself, but the confidence that comes from being in shape or having, a little bit better physique, like it carries weight for some people and it's a real thing. I tried to ignore it, but there's no ignoring it anymore.
Yeah, and I got to say, I don't think Ed Hockley or junior or senior were ever in doubt with what they were doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Jealous. Good for them. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, this is 2 years old. I mean, this is all great stuff. Where do you see it going? Like, is this something that you're gonna? Is it a national brand? Is it more segregated to your Dallas area or your Texas area? I know you mentioned California. You got people from all over the country that are popping on.
Yeah, I mean, if you speak English, you can access it. And I only say that because the app doesn't allow us to, configure languages. But I mean, we have an official who lives in Australia right now. We have an official that lives in the UK. So we have an official that lives in Iceland, actually, soccer official. It just, um, I, if you speak
That's
English, you
awesome.
can access it, right? It's a little bit mind-boggling. It's hard to fathom a little bit, right? You start with two local officials, and then now you're like, hey, I can help people in other places. That's really the goal. I don't have like a number in mind, right? We want to have 5,000 officials. Like it's not about that even. It's just how many officials can we help? How many officials can we impact? How many officials can we lengthen their career or help them, solve an injury bug or just enjoy the game more? Or in different sports, faster fitness tests. Like that's soccer officials. That's probably the number one thing that they reach out to us to or ask about is I need to pass my fitness test.
Yep. Well, I do know that the college game and the NFL game, that for the football officials, there's a lot of fitness that goes involved in that too, for them even to get a look, to get an invite to possibly being working one of those games. So if you're an official that is looking to move up the ranks in football, I could speak of football specifically. If you're looking to move up in the ranks, your fitness is something that is taken into consideration because they want to make sure that no, you don't all have to be Ed Hockley or anything like that, but you do have to be in shape. You do need to run because we're talking the high school kids are bigger and faster. Well, as you go up in level, they're all getting bigger and faster, and the speed is always the biggest change going from one level to the next level. Um,
Yeah.
I played Division 3 football. We had guys that could squat a house that were stronger than some of the Division 1 football players, but the Division 1 players were faster. And that was always the bottom line with it. It was the speed of the game overall, not just faster. There were other things too, but we had some big, strong cats at the Division 3 level that couldn't make it in the Division 1 level because of the speed of the game. So it is something that the fitness does play a part in wanting to move up the ranks and getting yourself seen and noticed for the right reasons. So you mentioned, unfortunately,
Yeah.
we get noticed for the wrong reasons. So,
Yeah. I mean,
so
that's a goal is to I put this out on Facebook one time. I got a lot of mixed feedback. What would you think if your sport had a fitness test? It's open ended. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but something that sets some kind of baseline standard. And a lot of, there's some college associations that already do something. Maybe I would do it a little bit differently, but they have something in place that's
mhm.
standardized. You got to pass or fail. But then there's some that think that it's going to shy more officials away. And I'm just like, maybe it is, but we're not asking you to do anything, crazy, run a CrossFit competition or get into a triathlon. We're asking you to do something basic that's much less than you would have to do over the course of a game. One goal of mine long term is to help associations at every level, whatever it's high school, college, so on and so forth, with some standardization of fitness tests that say, hey, you're fit to officiate college football, you're fit to officiate, high school basketball, so on and so forth. So I think that would be super cool when we're talking about that because right now soccer is the main one that, really has it everywhere.
Yeah, and I do know a lot of the pushback is because of the number of the officials that we have
Yeah.
going on right now, and that's something that I'm looking to do with just the podcast, just bring awareness to people of getting involved in the sport, um, and all sports in general, because I know we are at a shortage of officials across the board, and one of them is just well, they don't know the game, but another one is hearing stuff from the parents. And you brought it up. Sometimes it does have a negative perception on how we are physically. And again, that's awful, but it's a reality. Some people are still ignorant in that fact that they're going to make comments to people about how their bodies look and different things like that. Um, but it does affect our performance. I do, and again, I know people 270 pounds that can run like the wind, and okay, that's fantastic. They're going to make up for it. And they're going to do it. But some people might not be able to move as well as other people, and that's when some people think they could take liberties and start getting on officials and abusing officials in essence about their physical
Hmm.
stature. You
Yeah,
know,
the armchair referees, right?
they're everywhere. The armchair, the bleachers, the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning quarterbacks. I mean, they don't. It
Oh,
doesn't stop, and it's expected. It's par for the course. I again, I coached for 20 some odd years. I rode officials very hard when I was a coach. I am guilty of doing that myself. But I've come to have a thicker skin now with some of the things because the one thing that I've always been preaching is I now do have a different perspective on what the kids are doing, what the coaches are doing, the time and the effort that everybody's putting in because I was there. I was away from my family for summers dealing with summer workouts for the football team and getting them physically and mentally prepared. And now as an official, I don't want to cheat them. I want to give them the best product that I can give them on the game because I know how many hours away from their family they've spent. If I can give them the best 2.5 hours by being mentally sharp, and by being mentally sharp, I'm physically sharp, I'm going to do that for them because I just, and that's me. Other people, they're going to show up, they're going to work their 2.5 hours, they're going to go home and get their money. I think we're shying away from that. I think we're starting to see more of the outreach of people getting involved for the right reasons. But I don't want to cheat the kids. And now being a dad, I don't want my kids being cheated. So I'm
yeah,
looking at it from a lot of different glasses and different hats on of trying to figure out what can I do better to make it best for everybody involved. And sometimes it's a little self-sacrifice, and I'm willing to do that. I've learned that by now. So
yeah, absolutely.
so I got one more last question for you, and then I know you got a little bit of that surprise that we told the audience about. But last one's a little bit of a tougher question. I want to think about that old school official that is that 2.5 hour official, doesn't do stuff in the off season. What are your thoughts? And what are your techniques on trying to get that person initially motivated? Because that's always the hardest thing. And I know it's always that first couple weeks. If you can get through those first couple weeks of any type of training program, you're usually going to stick with it. But what ideas and what thoughts do you have to get that initial started?
Creating habits. I mean, that's the biggest thing because typically that's what it comes down to. And we have had officials reach out before that say, "Hey, I'm interested. Hey, I want to know more. Hey, I'm asking for help. I know I need it, but I can't get myself to do it all the time. I'm going to need a little bit of check-in or something of that nature, right? Something like that." So, I'll just kind of be on them a little bit more, maybe an extra email per week that I might send them, or I might message them on a journal entry that maybe I don't need to specifically, right? Maybe they were just thinking out loud, trying to get them to keep continuing their habits. And that's the biggest thing that I always look at. And that's a lifestyle thing for me as well, is right. I go to bed at a certain time because I know I need some rest and I need to do X, Y, and Z, but trying to create them habits. And hey, you got 3 workouts in this week. Great. See if you can get a fourth one in. And then when Sunday comes around, hey, you know, hit 4 of your 5 workouts last week. Let's see if we can for sure hit 4 more. And then if you have time on that fifth day or on Saturday morning, you have time, let's get the fifth one in. But the biggest thing is creating habits, and then things start to change because nobody gets better with 1 or 2 workouts. Let's be honest. Like that's not a thing. You don't get you don't change your body by 1 or 2 good meals and eating a plate of broccoli, right? It takes time, it takes effort, it takes sacrifice, but it comes down to habits.
Unfortunately, we live in the microwave era where we want to see those results. We want to have a bowl of popcorn in 2.5 minutes instead of taking the time to let it marinate and do it the right way. But yeah,
That's right.
couldn't agree with you more. I don't disagree with you is what I meant to say. That came out wrong. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more in that of setting those habits and getting those daily habits. And it, it's something that I'm working on improving on myself. And I'm always going to continue to try to improve on it myself and keep going and keep on plugging along. So, all
Yeah.
right.
I mean, we're human beings, right? We're not perfect, but you know, we strive to get better and better each day, and it adds up.
Absolutely. So, with that, you had mentioned pre-production. You may have a little surprise for the listeners. What do you got for us?
We do. So we created a special code for anybody who listens to this podcast. Um, when you go to our website, if you're a football official, basketball, it doesn't matter, and you select a program and decide you want to give us a chance and try to train with us, use code WHISTLETALK. That's going to give you 25% off your first month of training. You can cancel it at any time. You can keep going. Completely up to you. But we wanted to do something special for anybody who's listening. We wanted to make sure that if you took the time to listen to the podcast, to listen to me as a broken record talk about, officiating fitness and why you shouldn't go to Orange Theory, then, I wanted to do something special for everybody and obviously help people out as well, right?
Oh, that's awesome stuff. I appreciate that a lot, and I hope the listeners out there appreciate that too. But thank you very much for that. I truly do appreciate that. That's great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let our listeners know, how can they find you? Where can they find you? What kind of social media tags you got for them out there, so people that are listening can look you up. Obviously, go to runninref.com, and there's no G in that. I had to double check that
No G.
myself. No G.
Running. But yeah, on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X now, at Runnin Ref. YouTube, we do some longer stuff for YouTube, more production type of stuff on that as well. We're trying to, those becoming a little bit more how-tos and really showcasing, what to do. But then also LinkedIn, if you're a part of an association, we do stuff with associations, right? And one of the things that I really want to get more into, and we've done, is we've been a part of some camps and clinics and different things and gone and warmed up, 100 referees at a time, which is super cool. But I actually want to do something like we do in Dallas, an actual session in different parts of the country, right? So it's hey, everybody comes here, we get loose. If you're there early, we can talk, we can get to know each other, whatever. Then we go through an hour-long session. So if you're part of an association and you happen to be on LinkedIn, we would love to get in touch that way. That's just at the Runnin Ref because it's a little bit more of a personal profile. So, and then if you need anything at all, email is very easy. I'm pretty responsive. Probably check it more times than I should, but Austin at runninref.com. Be more than happy to send you any links to anything, how-to videos, helpful tips, general conversation. So, easy to get a hold of.
That's great stuff. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, to reiterate, go onto the website, put in Whistle Talk and the promo code, 25% off that first month. That's fantastic stuff. Austin, truly appreciate you taking the time out to join us here tonight on Whistle Talk, and more so appreciate what you're doing for the officiating for the sports world out there in general. It's fantastic stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, jump on, take a look at the stuff. I really do think you're going to like it. It's helping a lot of people out. I've definitely been piecemealing and picking and choosing and stealing a couple things off of it.
Good.
But it's definitely something now that our off season is coming around that I'm going to be tackling myself. So Austin, thank you once again. Truly appreciate it. Go check out those sites, ladies and gentlemen, and check out all the Whistle Talk sites too. Whistle Talk, Runnin Ref. I'm going to have all this information in my show notes too. So we'll have the links in there for you. You can click on those and go right to the sites. Austin, thank you very much. I hope you have a great holiday season coming up, and thank you again for taking the time out.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome stuff. Thank you.
If you're enjoying today's show and you want to show your appreciation to Mike D, you can buy him a beer by clicking on the link in the show notes or go to buymeacoffee.com/Mike D the referee. And as always, make sure to click follow and give 5 stars. Thanks for listening. Cheers.